What did you do this time? Dean shouted at Percy. What the hell'd you do this time, you stoopnoggle? Percy didn't answer. He strode past the desk without saying a word, patting his hair with his fingers. He went through my office and into the storage shed. William Wharton answered for him. Boss Dean? I think what he did was teach a certain French fry it ain't smart to laugh at him, he said, and then began to laugh himself. It was a good laugh, a country laugh, cheery and deep. There were people I met during that period of my life, very scary people, for the most part, who only sounded normal when they laughed. Wild Bill Wharton was one of those. I looked down at the mouse again, stunned. It was still breathing, but there were little minute beads of blood caught in the filaments of its whiskers, and a dull glaze was creeping over its previously brilliant oil-drop eyes. Brutal picked up the colored spool, looked at it, then looked at me. He looked as dumbfounded as I felt. Behind us, Delacroix went on screaming out his grief and horror. It wasn't just the mouse, of course. Percy had smashed a hole in Delacroix's defenses and all his terror was pouring out. But Mr. Jingles was the focusing point for those pent-up feelings, and it was terrible to listen to him. Oh no, he cried over and over again, amid the screams and the garbled pleas and prayers in Cajun French. Oh no, oh no. Poor Mr. Jingles, poor old Mr. Jingles, oh no. Give him to me. I looked up, puzzled by that deep voice, at first not sure who it belonged to. I saw John Coffey. Like Delacroix, he had put his arms through the bars of his cell door, but unlike Del, he wasn't waving them around. He simply held them out as far as he could, the hands at the ends of them open. It was a purposeful pose, an almost urgent pose. And his voice had the same quality, which was why, I suppose, I didn't recognize it as belonging to Coffey at first. He seemed a different man from the lost, weepy soul that had occupied this cell for the last few weeks. Give him to me, Mr. Edgecombe. While there's still time. Then I remembered what he'd done for me, and understood. I supposed it couldn't hurt, but I didn't think it would do much good, either. When I picked the mouse up, I winced at the feel, There were so many splintered bones poking at various spots on Mr. Jingles's hide that it was like picking up a fur-covered pincushion. This was no urinary infection. Still. What are you doing? Brutal asked as I put Mr. Jingles in Coffee's huge right hand. What the hell? Coffee pulled the mouse back through the bars. He lay limp on Coffee's palm, tail hanging over the arc between Coffee's thumb and first finger, the tip twitching weakly in midair. Then Coffee covered his right hand with his left, creating a kind of cup in which the mouse lay. We could no longer see Mr. Jingles himself, only the tail, hanging down and twitching at the tip like a dying pendulum. Coffee lifted his hands toward his face, spreading the fingers of the right as he did so, creating spaces like those between prison bars. The tail of the mouse now hung from the side of his hands that was facing us. Brutal stepped next to me, still holding the colored spool between his fingers. What's he think he's doing? SHH, I said. Delacroix had stopped screaming. Please, John, he whispered. Oh Johnny, help him, please help him, oh s'il vous plaît. Dean and Harry joined us, Harry with our old deck of airplane cards still in one hand. What's going on? Dean asked, but I only shook my head. I was feeling hypnotized again, damned if I wasn't. Coffee put his mouth between two of his fingers and inhaled sharply. For a moment everything hung suspended. Then he raised his head away from his hands and I saw the face of a man who looked desperately sick, or in terrible pain. His eyes were sharp and blazing, his upper teeth bit at his full lower lip, his dark face had faded to an unpleasant color that looked like ash stirred into mud. He made a choked sound way back in his throat. Dear Jesus, Lord and Savior, Brutal whispered. His eyes appeared to be in danger of dropping right out of his face. What? Harry almost barked.